Hey Lorain County football fans, and welcome back to another episode of The Blitz, brought to you by our friends at First Federal Savings of Lorain. I'm Rocco Nushi with the one and only Kristen Bauer behind the camera, getting a little more chilly out here as we have hit week 7. We are out at beautiful Firelands High School Stadium here, home of the Falcons, where how about those Falcons, folks, as they handed Keystone their first ever Lorain County League loss this past Friday. This is the 4th year of the Lorain County League. The Wildcats previously 22-0 heading into that Friday night clash with the Falcons, but it is Coach O'Rourke and Firelands pulling out the victory. 46-42 was the final score, and again, that's Keystone's first ever Lorain County League loss, so hats off to them for having that streak, and big shout out to Firelands for putting that streak to rest again this past Friday night. 46-42 the final score there. Weston Strader, man oh man, he just continues to have a wild 2022 season. 377 rushing yards for that young man in the win over Keystone, 6 touchdowns for Strader, so he might need to buy his offensive line a steak dinner or two after that one, because that was the 6th best rushing performance ever in Lorain County history. So a big shout out to Weston Strader and the Falcons for getting that win. That brings them to 5-1 on the season. They'll be on the road at Clearview this week trying to keep that train rolling. Elsewhere in the county, Wade Nelson of Avon Lake, he had back-to-back 73-yard rushing touchdowns in a little homecoming revenge win for the Shoremen over Midview this past week. 56-7 the final score there. Midview got the best of Avon Lake last year, so the Shoremen, again, looking to exact some revenge this year. That's exactly what they do in that win over Midview. How about those Black River Pirates as well? Back in the Lorain County League, they've won 2 in a row now after knocking off Brookside this past week. 29-14 was the final score there. Blake Hopkins, we've talked about him all season long, 181 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns against the Cardinals last Friday night. Black River looking to make it 3 wins in a row as they will be playing host to Oberlin this week. And I got to give a shout out to Elyria. They fell to Olmsted Falls in week 6. 25-14 was the final score there. But man, it was a really hard fought battle for Coach Devlin Culliver and his team right in the thick of that game for pretty much 3.5 quarters. As they took the lead at one point. Ryan Klotz and Jasir Lucky hooking up for a huge 92-yard touchdown, a passing catch. Again, it put Elyria up in the game. They had all the momentum on their side, but the Bulldogs just too big and too strong. Towards the tail end of that game, they wore down the Pioneer defense, and Rocco Conti and Michael Cando did the rest. Conti finishes with over 160 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns for that young man. So again, a big shout out to Elyria, a really hard-fought game. I think they're starting to prove that they can compete at the top of that SWC. Again, just fell short to Olmsted Falls this past Friday. So now looking at week 7, let's go back to Olmsted Falls as them and Avon will clash here in week 7. Huge SWC implications on the line in this one, but this is a matchup that Avon has historically dominated. They've taken the last 10 over Olmsted Falls, so Coach Elder maybe has Coach DeLuca's number in recent history with this one. So Olmsted Falls certainly looking for better results. I think this time around, this is absolutely a game that will be won in the trenches in my mind. Of course, Olmsted Falls with that wing T triple option. Avon, they love to run that football behind Jacorian Caffey and that huge offensive line. So for Avon defensively, I think it's all about that front and especially the linebackers, right? If Gavin Earhart can have a good game, if he can stay disciplined with when to, kind of stick his head in those holes and blow things up in the backfield for Olmsted Falls, I think that will be Avon's key to victory. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to focus in and stop this run, stop this wing T. It's another to have the discipline and the strength and the ability to go and do that. So I think that's kind of the key for Avon. And for Olmsted Falls, look, I think they've had kind of the test this year to get them ready for this kind of matchup, but they just haven't been able to stop the run for Avon these past couple of matchups. Last year, Jacorian Caffey kind of carved them up. Coach DeLuca said as much after the game. He said, hey, we just couldn't stop the run, and that was all Avon needed to do to get the victory last year. So I think, again, this year for Olmsted Falls, got to find a way to slow down Jacorian Caffey and friends. Not to say Detilio can't hurt you or beat you with his arm, but I think if they can make Avon one-dimensional, they might have a better shot than they have in recent years. So Avon and Olmsted Falls, huge Week 7 matchup. Well, what can you hear on WEOL? Well, we did have a bit of a schedule change. We have the same games, just kind of swapping where you can listen to them. So all that to say, on the radio and stream 1 at WEOL.com. It'll be Westlake at Elyria Catholic, a GLC matchup here. EC is 5-1. They cruised over Fairview last week. 42-7 was the final score there. Another 3-touchdown performance for running back Levi Ellis as he has surpassed the 4,000 rushing yard career mark. One of only, I believe, 3 EC Panthers to do so. So a big shout out and congratulations to Levi for doing that, as again, they will welcome in Westlake this week, who have lost 2 in a row over Bay, or I should say to Bay and North Olmsted. So this is a hungry Demons team, and I think if you're Elyria Catholic, look, you are at North Olmsted next week in week 8. So this is a game where you don't want to overlook the Demons. Again, they've lost 2 in a row. Westlake is hungry for a win here in week 7. You can't let this become a trap game, and I think that's kind of the message Coach Brian Fox will have to his EC Panthers throughout this week of practice. On the stream 2 at WEOL.com, Lorain County League battle, Wellington at Columbia. It's always physical when these two match up. Coach Howes and the Dukes got their first win of 2022 last week with a win over Oberlin, much needed. 56-6 was the final score there. They scored 3 times in the first 73 seconds, and pretty cool stuff here as sophomore quarterback Landon Wright, who beat out senior CJ Poland for that quarterback position this season. He kind of opened up the scoring with a touchdown pass. The very next defensive possession for Wellington, CJ Poland gets the interception. They punch it in. So just kind of storybook stuff right there. Landon Wright and CJ Poland, they're battling for that quarterback position. They both make a huge impact in that Friday night win for the Dukes over Oberlin. So shout out to Coach Howes and crew there. Very cool stuff. And Columbia, just kind of doing what they do still here in week 7. They had a week 6 win over Clearview. 41-21 was the final score there. Marco Srigliano and Tony Governale each finished with 3 rushing touchdowns. So big shout out to Srigliano and Governale pacing that Columbia offense. Talking with Coach Ward multiple times this season, he loves that offensive line that they run behind. So looking to keep that momentum rolling this week again. Wellington at Columbia, we'll have that on WEOL.com stream 2. And our Medina County matchup, don't forget about that, folks, on stream 3. It'll be Menor at Medina. This is a good one, as the Cardinals are coming off a 35-14 win last week over Brunswick. Medina, a 48-7 win over Euclid last week. So both teams kind of riding some momentum coming into this one. For Medina, how about safety Harvey Talon, excuse me. 2 scooping scores for his first ever varsity touchdown, so pretty cool stuff there for the safety Talon. And a big shout out to the Bees as they continue to keep things rolling here. Should set up for a very interesting Medina County matchup. Again, WEOL.com stream 3. And don't forget, folks, to like and subscribe to that Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. That's the best way to stay up to date with all the latest, catch all of the latest episodes of The Blitz as I smack the fence here at Firelands High School. So make sure you like it. Again, subscribe to that Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. So that'll do it for this week's episode of The Blitz. Again, make sure you check out the Chronicle Telegram for all the latest, recaps and box scores from the high school football action here in Week 7. So for Kristen Bauer behind the camera, I'm Rocco Nushi saying thank you for listening to The Blitz, brought to you by First Federal Savings of Lorain. We'll see you next week.